Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gayle Carson, that's Gayle, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. My guest today is Brandy Gillmore PhD. Brandy is an internationally known speaker and mind body expert. She's most well known for her discoveries using the power of the mind. The discoveries Brandy made were a result of her own devastating injury that had left her disabled, using a wheelchair or walker for mobility and extreme physical pain for over 6 years. Without hope for recovery, she began to research the placebo and then her own mind in search for a cure. What she discovered about the mind not only changed her health, it transformed her entire life, including health, relationships, business, finances, and most importantly, her level of happiness and joy. She coaches top celebrities, entrepreneurs, Olympic athletes, CEOs, and groups worldwide in using their minds to transform their health and their life. Welcome, Brandy.
Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
You know, I watched your TEDx talk, and I'm still not clear myself on exactly the placebo effect and all of that in the mind. So we'll get to that. But you were a networking engineer. So how did you go from that to becoming a mind body expert as your business?
You would think, right? You know, it was really something that never planned on. I'd always been very, very athletic, and then went into, always physically fit, went into network engineering, and then I had an accident, and technically I had two: a car accident and a fall. And overnight, my entire life changed. I went from being physically fit to being disabled, wheelchair, walker, cane, on morphine every day for years, and the medical community saying there's nothing that they could do for me, and it drove me to really start looking at my own health.
Well, I mean, I can see where, if they're telling you, hey, there's nothing we can do for you, and you've been a active, vital person before that, you're going to look for something else. But um, tell us what your path was to a six-figure business.
you know, as far as we became this journey of really figuring out my mind. And this is what I love. I have to say, in going through my injury, I was just looking for the answers. I was looking at diet and supplements and all of these things. And when they didn't work and another thing didn't work, that's when I began looking at the mind and the placebo. And I thought, this is ridiculous. But I knew that the placebo had worked over and over again. And so I started researching the mind, which, I had an accident, it was the last place that I would have ever thought the answer would be. But I kind of was just following the breadcrumbs, and all of the answers led me to healing with the mind. And the beautiful thing is I was on, disability for years. And so my finances were terrible, and my health and everything. But when I got better, I just figured, okay, well, figured it out, what I needed to do. And that in itself changed my life. It really woke me up to the power of our minds. And so I basically then was like, okay, well, now I need to fix my finances and everything, because my whole life and everything had fallen apart. I mean, I lost my hobbies, just everything, being on disability, all of that. And so from that point, I said, okay, well, now I need to really work on my mindset towards money. And so the first year I was off disability, I was able to make a six-figure income. And the next year I made over six figures before Valentine's Day. So I think it was like by February 8th, I made over
Yeah, but
six figures.
how did you do that, Brandy? I mean, you said the first year you were off of disability, you made six figures. How did you do that?
I would say opportunities. I was working on my mindset. So I I I was working on my mindset, and I was starting basically what I had planned on when I got better was I planned that I would just share the information of how I did it with my doctors, because I thought, okay, look, let me share that with them. I'm sure they'll want to help everybody. And yet my doctors were less than interested on how to get better. They had more patients to take care of and all of these things, and they didn't really care. And so what happened is I just started helping people. I started helping people with their mindset in general. And so their mindset, their health, different things like that. So that was the first year was I started, and I had like I just kind of developed like an entrepreneur mindset. So I had different it was like different businesses. I sold some things on Amazon. It was just like my mind. I was doing a combination of different things. I had ideas that just came in, and I took action on them. And so that was my six figures. My first six figures was helping people, helping with mindset, selling some things on Amazon. So it was just a very entrepreneurial mindset. And the businesses so the people that I was helping with mindset also started to have incredible changes in their careers and their life and all of that. And so eh, amazing people just started coming into my life. And like even I helped one founder of a company, which is a multi-million dollar company, international company. They were losing money. So they had like a burn rate of about 50 to 75,000 a month. And so just to explain a burn rate for anybody who's not familiar with it, they were losing money about 50,000 to 75,000 every month, but it was because they were expanding and they were growing so fast. And so they came to, like basically a crossroads where it was, where they either needed to stop growing or they needed to find investors. And so this was another company that I helped out the founder, and and then I got a large chunk of money based off of that. So I basically started helping people, and when they had successes and wins, I also got a percentage of the success and win, different things like that. And what I found, like even when I look at certain companies, like the one I mentioned, the founder, like our mindset shows up everywhere in our business. And so I have so like one of the companies that I helped, the person, he basically wanted an investor and wasn't able to get one for years. He wasn't able to get one, but his mindset was opposite of having investors. And so and then another company where same thing, woman, she wanted investors in her business. Or her belief basically was that she had started her company with no investors, and she was so proud that she never needed investors. And so in her subconscious mind, she didn't want investors. And so that was another situation. And so I've helped people just take companies and turn them around by understanding their mindset, what's blocking them, and what's contradicting what it is that they really want. So in other words, for example, like even when it comes down to basically like money, a lot of people, they think, oh, I want to make more money. I want to get my business to a six-figure or seven-figure business or whatever it is. And they want that. And then there's a part of them that says, oh my God, well, if I make too much money, people will hate me, or people won't like me, or they'll criticize me, or they'll judge me, or I can't do it. Like they'll have contradictory beliefs. And
Well, that I understand. I mean, there are people, they say, there are a lot of people who don't succeed because they're afraid of success, so I know exactly what you're saying there. But still, I mean, that is almost like kismet, Brandy. I mean, it's like, I mean, that's a true gift. And what's amazing is that there are people who are in these multi-million dollar industries who are willing to listen to someone like you. I mean, they could just as soon dismiss you as not. So I think it's a wonderful thing that you did and are doing. And how have you scaled it?
Well, and I would say part of the reason that people will listen is because a few things. So even with when I got better from my injury, being having a network engineering background, I was going, okay, well, everybody's going to think that I'm crazy in healing with my mind. That just sounds ridiculous. And so what I did is I wanted to show people like where they could visually see it. And so I started taking people who were in chronic pain for 5, 10, 20 years, 30 years longer, and maybe and they're experiencing some type of pain. And I put them under a scan. I had a doctor who put them under a scan, and I would work with them with their mind. And you can literally see the scan change and their pain go away. So you can visually see their pain go away, and you can ask them, at the beginning, maybe they have 0 to 10, a level 8 of pain. And then we work with them for 10 minutes just on using their mind, and their pain goes away, and so they have 0 pain, and you can see the scan goes from red to green. And so in being able to show results, and show the results back to back, is one reason that, like, even another person that I work with, she was losing millions in her company 2-3 years ago now. And last year she made over 130 million. And yeah. And so her, like a lot of her stuff all turned around, it just basically looking at people's mindsets and helping them to understand what it is they need to do. And so from a positive mindset, or when we really shift our mindset, that's when everything changes. And so and how have I been able to scale it? Basically, I've been working on that. I do classes, group classes, and stuff like that for people with healing, and I do speaking, and I also do VIP high end coaching, and that's kind of the setup. My goal is to really change the way that people look at their mind and also their health, because what people don't realize is that their health is actually a message to change what's going on in their mind, if that makes sense.
Well, I tell you, I'm a big mindset person. I practice it all the time. And I'm very, conscious, health conscious, and I take care of myself. I have health issues, but I take care of them. But I'm not doing any 130 million. So what I want to ask you is, why do you think so many women in business find themselves overwhelmed, and because they're overwhelmed, they're burnt out?
I would say that it's so interesting when our mindsets are off. Like, let's say somebody's really, really, really working on trying to make more money, and they're really working on it, and all of these distractions come up, or everything, like all of these things are simultaneously happening, or whatever. What happens is this. I guess the best way to really illustrate this is to think about somebody who is driving a car, and they're putting one foot on the gas pedal and the other foot on the brake, and they're struggling to go forward. And after a while, it just feels exhausting and tiring and burnt out. So that's one thing, is a lot of times when we want something, and then also a large part of us doesn't want it for some reason, it feels exhausting. If we think about the awareness that the body's energy, it would be like trying to walk into 100-mile-an-hour wind. Like, because your energy is trying to push forward, and you have other energy that's trying to push you backwards. And after a while of trying to walk into 100-mile-an-hour wind, you really just feel exhausted each day. And
so that's kind of like the people who are afraid of success. They're working hard at something, but they're also afraid that they are going to be successful.
It's interesting is, yes. And I would say probably out of everybody that I work with, I would say less than 10% of it has to do with fear. I would say
they're fearful of success. I agree with you.
But I would say a very small amount. A lot of times it has to do with other things, other beliefs, I wouldn't say it's usually fear, but it can be. But it's just, yeah. But I would say it has to do with judgments or all kinds of things. So that's one thing, is just them trying to push forward. I mean, if you really think about it literally, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. I mean, the conscious mind is 5 to 10% of your brain cells, and the subconscious mind being 90 to 95%. When you think of the 10% or 5 to 10% really pushing forward, and then the subconscious mind, the 90 to 95% not wanting to budge, and people are like, well, why am I running out of energy? Why am I so tired? Why am I exhausted? Why am I overwhelmed or burnt out? And what happens is either they just feel lethargic and low energy, or it's like they attract a lot of distractions, and it feels like every time they try to do one thing, something else falls apart, and they try to do something else and something else falls apart, or something else comes up they have to deal with, and it's just being out of alignment.
Well, it's interesting. I've always kind of taught that stress is the amount of wear and tear on your body, and that too much stress results in burnout. And so I've always talked about ways to reduce stress and so forth. But what are some of the signals that many women might miss?
Okay, so this is fun, because this is what I've found in my work, and it's incredible. Is that, like, the woman I mentioned losing millions of dollars, and then over $130 million last year? Like, one thing that she was experiencing is she had a lot of knee pain. Okay, and when we went to work on her mindset regarding the knee pain, there was a lot of self criticism there. And so when we helped her to shift the level of self criticism, her success, that was one of the things we did. We did a lot of things with her mind, but that was one of the things we needed to change. And that was the most important thing. She needed to shift from criticizing herself to supporting herself. And what I found is that whatever ailment is going on in the body, it's telling us the most important thing we need to know. So, in other words, like, if your body's, like, some people's body might have shoulder pain, and they're like, I don't want to deal with this shoulder pain. I just want to work on my business. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to take a Vicodin and get rid of this shoulder pain. I don't want to work on my business. I just want to work on my business. And what their shoulder is really saying is, it's saying, it's giving them some type of information to help to change their way of thinking. That, like, maybe it's saying they're having a lot of anger towards their business partner, and if they'd instead shifted that anger to collaboration, boom, that's what the success is. And so what I found is, whether it's criticizing themselves or holding on to anger or resentments or hurt or a pattern, if we look at traditional psychology, we all have patterned ways of thinking and patterned ways of attracting in our lives. Even if we look at partners, it's well known in psychology, people can attract the same type of partner as their mother or father, or somebody growing up, and we can attract those patterns. But we have patterns in everything. We have patterns in finances, patterns in relationships that are outside of romantic relationships. And so what happens is the body is telling us the most important thing we need to know. And so that's actually what led to a lot of my business stuff, is because I wanted to help people with their health. And then I'd help them with their health, and they're like, oh my God, my business and this and that, it changed. And I'm like, absolutely. And if you do this, it'll keep changing. And they're like, oh, so they did it. And it's like, oh my God, it did. And
So,
so
what do you say the key to making a positive change is?
I would say the key to making the positive change is, first and foremost, making an authentic change. Because all too often, change is not authentic. And one way to illustrate that is to think about somebody, let's say somebody's angry and they punch holes in the wall. They have an anger issue. Okay, so then they go to anger management, and then anytime they're angry, instead they take deep breaths and they walk around. Well, it's great that they changed their action, their outward action changed, but they didn't change the emotion. They're still feeling and experiencing anger. They're just relaxing and breathing through it. And I would say one of the keys to real change is to really change the emotional patterns and habits of how it really feels, because our emotions are our energy. And a lot of people, they try to put positive talk on top of it, or they try to change their outward action to minimize what they're doing, but they never really changed the emotion and the real authentic feel behind it. And when you change that, that's where you have the ability to change your health and your life and what you're creating and it's beautiful.
So, what was the biggest thing holding you back in your mindset and money and having a successful business? It seems like you found the key.
I would say that there are a lot of different keys. I've worked with people before who had a $400 million business who said, okay, look, I'm stuck. How do I get it to an $800 million business? And so um, I would say that there's not one key, thank God, because it's a progression. I mean, somebody who's making X amount of dollars, maybe they find the next few blocks that are holding them back. And then, so I would say there's always something. And personally, I would say I had a lot. I had I had a lot of blocks towards money. I had feelings of, especially, part of what I do is health, and I had feelings like, oh my God, I don't want to charge people for health. Um, and I realized that wasn't helpful. So that's one thing. I would say also feeling like people who had money were not nice or arrogant. And I'm like, I don't want to be arrogant, rude to people. And I grew up with that belief. And so um, feeling like if you have money, it's taking advantage of people. I mean, there was a lot of different things that I personally had that I needed to clear. And I would say everybody's different. We all grow up with different belief systems, and I had I had some clearing to do. I had some really clearing to do that gosh, I can't even remember some of them.
Well, that's good. That's good. So
Exactly.
let me ask you, Brandy, if people wanted to get in touch with you and learn more about this, where would they go?
My website is brandygillmore.com, and Brandy is with a Y and Gilmore has two L's. So brandygillmore.com.
So Brandygillmore.com. And I don't know if you want to offer our guests anything. I don't know if you have anything on your website that they might find interesting. But I just, we have about 3 minutes left. And I want to make sure that we've hit all the high points that you want to get out there, because I know that you think there are certain things that keep people from achieving their goals. I think that you also think that, there are people who don't believe there is that body and mind uh, connection. What are some of the other things and other points you want to get across to our listeners?
Well, a few things. First and foremost, um, if they go to my website, brandygillmore.com, and they type in / special access, it will actually give them access to a a complimentary mini video series. So
Okay.
so if they want to do that, that's available. So and it shows them how some tools to start using their mind. So that's something I'd be happy to give your listeners. And by the way, Gail, I'm sorry, Dr. Carson, you are so wonderful. I love your energy. Just wonderful. I do. You're amazing. You're precious. Just fabulous. But what the biggest point that I would love to make is that whatever ailment is going on in our body, it's actually telling us an important message. And all too often, I see people, you hear of people that have the health issue and they keep going and they don't realize it's like somebody knocking on the door saying, hey, if you change this, it's going to change your life. Like, this is the answer. And you're like, shut up, body. I got to keep going. And our bodies have the answer, which doesn't, I mean, for a lot of people, that might sound ridiculous, but if we look at it, I mean, we can look at emotions and we can see they affect the body. And that was something that I looked at. If somebody's embarrassed, their face can turn red. If somebody's got anxiety, they can have an anxiety attack, or even scared to death or bored to death. Now, if boredom can actually kill somebody, what about the rest of the emotions? What about hurt? What about resentment? What about fear? What about, all of these different things? And that's what made me start looking at emotions in the subconscious mind and emotional patterns. And it's just, I would say what we're capable of, and obviously, Dr. Carson, you're well aware of this, but what we're capable of is absolutely incredible. And the things that I get to see on a regular basis, it's mind blowing. Like we're truly amazing beings.
Well, there you hear it, folks. If you go to Brandy, that's Brandy Gillmore, GILLMORE.com, and /access here, you're going to get a group of videos that I think will be very helpful.
It's actually /special access.
Oh, special access. Sorry.
Yes.
As special access. You will get videos that I really believe will help you in whatever issues you're having, physically, mentally, all the rest. So, wow. Really, really appreciate everything you've had to say, Brandy. Thank you so much for being with us, and good luck in the future.
Thank you. And Dr. Carson, it has been such a pleasure connecting with you. I love your heart. You're just beautiful.
Thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at GayleCarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.